lots of steps like how to create a database connection and how to create a web service and how to consume a web service. We have in the first class of today, we learned how to consume a web service, a third-party web service. Now we are going to call database. So to call database, we will first make connection with the database, and then we will create a database. We will expose database into a web service, and then we will consume a web service into a different project. So in this way, we will be calling the database with the help of web service. So in this way, we will achieve two goals. One, creating a web service and consuming a web service, plus calling a database. And at the end, then we will deploy this application onto an application server. If you have any question regarding the previous topics, please type in the chat window provided in the GoToMeeting session before we can proceed. Okay, let's start. In the first session, we learned how to make a connection. Now we are going to create a rich UI handler that will be used to display the records of database table. Okay, we created this project here. If you remember, this is our project that we created in first session today. Now, what I will do, I will try to create a web service, a service part. As we learned that there are different parts like rich UI handler, library parts, and service parts. In the service and library parts, we normally write our custom functions that we want to reuse throughout our application. In case of services or the service part, there is option available that we can expose the service part into a web service. So right now we are going to create a service part, and then we will expose that part into a web service. Then a WSDL file will be created against our function. And in that function, we will be calling the database. So what I will do, I will create a package here first so that I can better manage my files, my services, libraries, and other things. You can give it any name, it's up to you. Okay, my services. I'm just giving this my services, finish. Select the project, right click, new, and if you can see there is a service option here. Select this one, service. Give the file name is Derby or maybe customer details web service. So I'm about to create a SOAP service. So I check the SOAP service and finish. So just leave this message. This is regarding the Tomcat deployment option. Just leave this message. Okay, this is by default generated, so just remove this one. So what I have to do now is to create a variable like customer, and its type is customer. It should be an array so that I can return a bunch of records. Control-Shift-O to import the definition of this customer type, excuse me, okay. So once you make this one, now what we do, we will create a function, show customer details, and this should return customer object and close. So this is our function that we want to expose is a web service function. So anyone who is calling this function, he will execute the functionality or the business logic that we are going to write inside of this function. So what I will do, I will write a get in cust semicolon. Okay, we know this reserver. What it does, it does in the background it generates a select statement. So if we want to see the select statement, right click and then add, then this is our by default generated select statement. Okay. Now once these records are returned, they will be saved in the customer array, and now then we will return this cust. Okay. Okay, sorry. The return type should be array because we are returning an array object. So the return should be similar format or similar type. Okay, once we have done this, just save the file. Okay. And then we should see a visual file created against this one. If you see, if you expand your web content folder, then web inf folder, and then visual folder, and if you click this one, you can find this one, customer details ws.visitor file. Double click on this one. Now if you can see, here is the path or the URL of the server where your service is running on. Okay, and this one customer details is your interface name, and this interface contains one function. It's take one parameter. I mean the parameter is not defined here, and the return type is also not defined here. I think we have to save the file, but we have to generate the code, so it will take effect here. Okay. Normally, when you save your file, EGL tool automatically generates the corresponding code. But sometimes the tooling is not able to generate the complete code. So what you have to do, you have to manually generate your code. So select your project or maybe the EGL source, right click, and then if you can see there is a generate option. Click generate. Okay, let's click here. Now I double click here. Now these fields have been updated. Interface name is same one. Now function name has been changed. As we are not providing any input parameter, so there is nothing, but we are getting an output parameter. It's customer array because we are returning an array, and that array contains a customer object. Customer SQL record object that will contain all records of database of a customer table. Okay. Now once we have done this, what we have to do? We have to copy this one, this physical file, and again we can create a new project here. EGL HY. give it customer, or maybe customer RBD. Okay, that's the name of the project. Just next and finish. Okay, change the perspective. Here you go and just create a package, give it any name. I'm giving is a WSDL. Copy the WSDL file here. Same way, select the WSDL file, go in EGL services and generate client interface. Wizard will appear, follow the steps, next, and finish. Then couple of packages will be generated automatically for you. Same thing. If you see the interface name, the function name, and this function is not taking any parameter, so there is nothing defined here, but this function is returning a customer array. So the customer array definition is also defined here. If you want to see the definition, select, right click and open selection. Then this second file will be highlighted. This customer object is in a record and its definition is defined here. Okay. Now what is the next step? Next step is to create a rich UI handler. Create a package here. Any name. Change button name. Show customer. Okay, and now we have to use a grid here. Maybe Dojo grid or normal grid here. Drop it here. Okay, save the file, or maybe just remove the grid, because we will create grid based on our object. So we will create a variable of customer type inside the rich UI handler, and then from the design view using EGL data view we will select our variable type and we will drop on the rich UI handler. Then it will automatically create a grid and it will automatically bind with the variable. So whatever the values our variable contain, those values will be automatically displayed in the corresponding widget, that is grid. So I don't have to manually first drop a grid on the rich UI handler and then manually bind my variables with the grid. So in place of this thing, what I have to do, okay, first select the grid, press delete this one, save the file. Now go in the code, or maybe just go back, select the button. Let's first create an event handler. Select the button. This button has been selected. Plus now show. Okay. Now here we have. Now first what I have to do, I have to create a customer array. Customer, it will be customer array. Now it will ask for the definition. So what I have to do, Control Shift O, then it should bring the definition here. And the definition is defined here, EGL Derby7.data. This is the same package name, EGL Derby7.data inside this one, and here is the customer record definition. Okay, so we define this variable here. Save the file. Now here we have to call the web service. Again, what we have to do, if you remember your steps, first we have to create a variable that will reference this interface. It will be like for example, customer web service. Give it any name. Now variable curly braces. Now we will use a bind property, bind service, and semicolon. Again, import definition of this interface. Control Shift O. Now we have bind the definition of this interface in our inside of our rich UI handler. Now second step is to use the call reservoir cursed WS variable dot. If you see, this is our function. Then returning to show customer records, okay, or on exception show web service call. Yes, you can give any name to these successful or failure functions. It's up to you. As we have now defined these functions, so select or maybe right click here, and if you see, create callback function. Okay, here we go. Now if there is a successful, then what we do, we will populate this customer array equal to this result array. Both are customers, so it will automatically go from here to there. And if in case there is exception, I will write this lib dot write standard out. So it will write any exception message on the screen on the console. Okay, save. Or if you like to do one more thing, you can write in the event. For example, calling web service. Okay, save the file. Same way, if you want to put your this line inside the web service code, so just you want to see when the request has been passed on to this service part. So either you can put your commit here just to see inside web service, or maybe inside web service. Okay. The same. Yes. That's fine. Now we are ready to go. Now we have to test the service. So what we have to do, we have to first deploy our both files on the server. Now first we will deploy our web project. So I changed my perspective into web perspective. I can see I have to first make my Tomcat available here. Right click, server, okay. You can either directly deploy here, or maybe you can deploy this one. Either right click, or you can select your Tomcat, right click, and then add remove. Then select your project and deploy. Okay. Once this is deployed, run your Tomcat. So it's first deploying our web service part. The provider part, that is providing web service, is the file. So this part has been deployed on the Tomcat. Now, just to make sure that either our service has been successfully deployed on the server, what we can do, we can go in the web content, select your WSDL file. Either you can do the same thing from inside of your web project or from your HUI project. Just you have to select your WSDL file inside of your RBD tool, right click, and if you see web services, and then test web services explorer. So before directly calling, we want to make sure that this web service, this WSDL file has been successfully deployed on the server and working fine. Now let's first test this WSDL. Okay, now we have one function, like this one. There is no input parameter, so there is no need, it's not asking for parameter, just click go. Now it's saying connection exception. Now it means there is no connection. It's not calling the web service, or it's not calling the DB. So what we have to do, we have to first see, okay, it's deployed, Tomcat is working fine, it's started, and it's here. So what is normally written here? So we have to go in your build descriptor, just to make sure, okay, we have database connections is given here, everything looks fine. I think GND name is not there, just to update this one, change to anyone, and then just update this one, save the file. Again, to make sure, just select your project, right click, go in the properties. Then we have EGL, this runtime data source option in the in this properties dialog box. Select this one, connections, select your my EB connection. You see all properties has been populated successfully because we have already this connection, so just OK and save. This way it will save your settings in the project. It will save the database connection settings in the project. Now just either restart the WAF, your Tomcat server. Okay. Now let's test it again. Select WSDL web services and test explorer. Connection failure. So what I have to do, okay. Another way is to just double click on the WSDL, select this URL, open your browser, type your URL and hit. I mean maybe the port is different for this Tomcat, so I have to see. I have to see the port of this server. I think the it's not running on the server, so I have to check this port. 8080. I think there is a port issue. It's not taking the port. So, okay, we can even deploy on the WAS server, RBM previous pair application server. I can just hit stop this Tomcat. Okay, now. Just trying to make sure if there. Okay, maybe there's something else. So, okay, let me deploy on the WAS. I will start WAS. Because initially when we created this project, we set with Tomcat, so I have to change its preference from the properties. If you go and then select servers, I hope it should allow me to change. It's not allowing to change it. So, okay, let me do one more thing. Let me try with Tomcat 6 version. Otherwise, we have to recreate the project. Maybe on the Tomcat 6, it should work. Copy. I think it's not allowing here, and I have to see why it's. I think I have similar one into another workspace. So let me stop. Let me change my workspace to another one, and rather than we create a project, I think these things sometimes happen and they take time. Meanwhile, if you have any question regarding any topic, we can continue on. I can answer to your questions. So this is my, again, this is the same thing, and the same service has been created here. Okay, and then we created a web service here, and we initialize, and we get some values here, and then we are returning. Now I will first run this here. I want to make sure that how either it's working fine here. It's 9080 port. Okay, let's see. Run on Tomcat. Remove all unnecessary packages. Okay. One minute, sorry. This one is closed. Now it can easily remove this one. Okay. Now start. Let me copy this path. Open the browser. Again, it's not working here. Why it's not working? Okay, let's create another project that will be based on the IBM WAS application server, and we will create a web project, and then we will import the database, and then we will deploy and create a web service. Okay. Maybe there is some issue with my Tomcats. Maybe I have installed something and that have removed their settings, and that's why they are causing problems here. Okay. Same thing. What we do, just select your EGL source, new, and then others, and then what we do, we will do the data access application. Again, select your project name. What is my project name? Is DB service, and if we have connection, we can use the same one, connection. Okay. Next, qualify name, next, finish. That's it. Okay, this is done. Now create a service part. Give it package name in like my services, customer, DB, service, soap service, finish, and then I create a customer, and I can make it. By the way, maybe I have missed this one. By default, when you create your array, so you have to specify this zero sign. So by default they will be they can contain null values. Otherwise, when you dynamically add values, they will not take the dynamic values. If I remove this zero from from the bracket, then it will. Then I will apply these custom functions. Then they will cause some problems. So you have to initialize your array with your append pairs. Like we have seen the append element functions, where we normally append some things like ABC. So without it, they will cause some problems. So you have to initialize your array with 0. I mean, in the inside of this bracket you have to put 0. So in this way, it's making your array variable is initialized properly, and then they can contain some other references. Otherwise, you cannot dynamically add values. Or you, in other words, you are like initializing your array with a 0 value. It's not empty, but it's a 0 value. Okay. Anyway, allow. Let's go function. Show customer. Okay. Now save the file. Okay. This should have created a web service here. We can see in the web content folder. Minus in here. Double click here. Now let's run on the server. Add remove project. Run the WAS application server. Okay, once this is, I think this is done. Now let me run this. This is the file here, just to see how it's running here. So I think again we have, if you see the function name has not be reflected. So again, remember what we did, we generated, because sometimes the EGL tool doesn't generate the code completely. So we have to select the project, right click and generate. Now let's see. Now if you see the parameter, name, function, if these things are correct and the corresponding code, the generated Java code will be fine. You see here, I can show you the generated Java code. If you expand this one, this is your generated Java code. And this will be every time regenerated. If you delete your Java code, then next time if you regenerate, then it will be refreshed. It will be regenerated. Okay, I think it should have automatically deployed on the server. And click here. Okay. Now it called the service, but web service it failed it when it calling this with the database. So I think again we have to go in the build descriptor. We want to show, if you see we have missed our database settings here. So we have to make sure our database settings. If you see now they are here. I save the file. Okay. Again, select your project, right click properties, EGL runtime data source. Again, select your my DB connection. Make sure all parameters, drivers, everything is fine. Okay. Yes, build again. Okay, now select project and generate. When you will generate, then it will automatically redeploy on the server, on your application server. Now it's redeploying. Okay, now let's run the service. Select the file web service is this one. Customer service. Oh, it's publishing right now. A bit slow here. Now it's published successfully. Now let me try again. Go. Okay, here we go. Now if you see it, the logs, database connections made with drivers, their version, and at the top here we have result. So at the end we are successfully able to call database in the visitor file. Now our next part is remaining. It is we have to call this value in the rich UI handler. So I have to take this visitor file, copy the visitor file, go in my customer DB. I have already these files. So what I can do, I can either delete these files, delete this old generated code. Okay, place my new file here, select EGL generate client interface. Okay, same thing, it should be similar, nothing different. Go in the code. Let's see what is the error here. Okay, of course the function name has been a bit changed, interface name. So I will, this is my interface name, copy this name, put it here, and now this function name may be different one. Control Shift O. To commit it. Control Shift O. Now write import statement has been issued here. Now, okay. Now dot. Here is the function name. Okay, just save the file. Now everything is crystal clear. Now this is the time to run this rich UI handler. And then it should and it must work. What is this? Okay, it's fine. Okay, let's go in the build. I think we have missed something here. Maybe there is an error message. What we are missing here? Here is saying my services.customer details WS part could not find. It's highlighting the reason why it's failing. My services. Select your project, right click and generate. Once we remove those files, so their reference is somewhere missing. See why there is a reference to the old file. Though we removed all stuff, but still the reference is okay. I can create a new handler here. Custom. Rather than we investigate and show, we have to save the time. So I will just copy this customer, this function here, these couple lines, and including button. And this one. Okay, I have to just add this button in the children of this UI. Okay, and just import the lines. Save the file. Click preview. Not fine open deployment descriptor. Okay, the deployment descriptor is something old. So we have to remove from the deployment descriptor. If you remember, we talked about that in deployment descriptor is used for your web services. If you can see this file, because we manually deleted the code, so this file didn't delete our old reference. So here it has old reference to our web service. So definitely this doesn't exist. This digital is not anymore present in the code. All these names are the digital file, are the names, are the are these details no longer existing. So just that's why it's causing problem. So just remove this one. Let's make sure is there any other reference to it. I think there's no more reference. Just save the file. Okay. Select your project and generate. Okay. Now let's run the first. Okay. This is our first HUI handler. The first one is running fine. And second one is also running fine. So we will run the first one. Click preview. Let's click the console so that we can see on the console how logs is going on. Okay, I can clear the logs. Okay, now we are clicking on the button. I click on the button. If you see, it's saying calling web service. Okay. Now it's asking either you want to call a deployed version or the version that is in the local environment. I can say okay, either maybe call the deployed version that is deployed on my local WAS application server. Okay. Now we have to see. It should come. It should return the values. Why still? Let me try again. This time, this one. Now we can see there is exception from the database that is returned in our code. Now this time it executed the failure function, on exception function. It's saying cannot connect to DB database, fail to start DB, see exception. Okay, I got it. Why it's failing? Because Derby database is a single threaded database, so at one time it can have one connection. I think there is more connection to it at the same time. If it's causing error, let me just stop the server and close all. So what is the end point here? The end result is this. Once we click on this one, this will call the web service, and the web service that is running on our local WAS server, it will automatically called. And I'm just restarting this RBD tool. So when it will call the web service that is running on the WAS server, then WAS server will forward to our project that is exposing this WSDL file. So that project, the web project, will handle the request from our HUI project, and then it will call the corresponding service part, and it will interact with the database, and then it will return all customer records that are being fetched from the DB, and then it will throw back to the WAS server, and WAS server will send to the HUI project. And when which HUI project will receive it, then it will show in the HUI grid on the screen. I hope this time this should work. I restarted it, running the WAS, so that our web application should work there, and this should be in a running state. I think one thing we have made mistake here. What is this one? Oh, we have not displayed the grid on the UI. Funny mistake. Maybe in the background it's calling the service, but we have not displayed on the grid in the grid layout. So we have to drop this one. So what we can do, we can here is my grid. Let's drop the grid here. Go in the source. Okay. Now if we remember, basically these lines, this is the data part will be dynamically added here. So the data column name must be the same as of the returning data. So we have the data column name should be, alright, this customer ID here, for example, this customer ID. This is a display name. Display name can be anything, but name should be the same name for the data items. So when you are adding your dynamic data, so based on the name, it will distinguish between your data. Okay, it will say, okay, this is a date column, and this is a name column, and this is a class column. So it will assign the corresponding value in the particular column. It will be customer. Okay, I think these three are enough. Just save the file. Okay, and once on the success, I will call this grid reference here, and data, and then we will say is in. Okay, as we remember, any is a particular type of keyword that help us to automatically or dynamically convert data into the corresponding corresponding type. In our case, although the customer array is the customer array, but it will convert this piece of data into a collection of a string data, and then it will assign into the data grid using the data property. Save here, click preview, just refresh the page. Okay. Okay. Click call service. Okay, here we go. So our service is always being successfully called, but as we had not added the grid on the UI component, so it was not visible. But it was in the background, it was being called. So this is the end of our objective to create a service, to consume a service, and how to call a database. Again, if you create more columns here, then more data will be visible here. For example, it's up to you. Like first name, in the same way you can, for example, put your phone here, and so on. And the same way, if you in the design view select your grade, and from the properties, select the grade. From the properties, you can assign page sign like 5 lines per page. Okay, and then save your page and click preview, refresh the page. Okay, now click run. You can remember save, and it will go. And here is the result. If you can see, next page, last page, you can sort them and you can play with them. So I think we have crossed the time. So let me quickly tell you how once we have developed our application, how we deploy our application. The deployment step is a bit very easy. It will not take much time. So what we have to do, we have to select we have to first create a project, a web project that will contain our generated code, the deployment generated binary code. I mean the final code. So I will say web service. Customer DB, let's say final. Okay. And then again you select your application server. In our case was finish. Okay, it has generated this project, and by default there is nothing. So what we have to do, go in your RichUI project. Okay, inside the RichUI project we have this page, this RichUI handler. I'm just deleting this old one, RichUI handler. There's no need for this one. I only need this one, this page to be exposed as a we are interested to deploy this RichUI handler. So what I have to do, so this RichUI project is working fine. So I will go in the deployment descriptor. Now, if you can see in the overview first tab, you will have a target project. Select here, and here you can see list of available web project, only web projects. It will show only web projects. Select this final one. Otherwise, you can click new, and then you can create a web project. Your server and everything. It's the same dynamic web project. Okay, we selected this one, and here it's saying, okay, the HUI handler that you are interested to be deployed on a server is your this one RC is your package dot show customers, and HTML file name, the generated file name will be this one. And if there is a services, the services details are given here. Like you are using a web service, and the service interface name is this one. It's using WSDL protocol, WSDL protocol. Click on the HUI here. Okay, now you are only interested in English language. You don't want to generate into another language, maybe in Arabic, Chinese, or some French or German. There are some other properties like service bindings we already talked. This is our service that we are currently consuming in the current project, and here are the settings for this web service. The visual name, the visual file, where it is located inside of the project, inside of the EGL source. There is a visual folder, and inside the visual folder you have this file, and your port name and other details. On the last resources, here by default all HUI widgets and components will be exported. Okay, for example, if you go in the Dojo widgets, you can see all Dojo widgets are being exposed. So all code will be exposed. It will be generated. So in your final version that you will deploy on the production, what you will do, you have to only select your corresponding widgets. For example, I am not using Dojo bar chart, I will uncheck this. I am not using accordion, I will uncheck this bubble chart and other things. So in this way you will reject these things. Okay, and now you will only select your corresponding widgets. So in this way it will make your final deployable item, I mean the file size smaller, and the loading time will be, of course, faster in the browser, and there are some other benefits. So we only have to select this correct project name, save the file, and now we are ready to go. Now select your HUI file that handler that we want to expose. Just right click. And by the way, before doing this, just see the structure of this. This is our empty web project. There is nothing there. It's empty. Everything is empty. The default generated file. So after this, there will be so many files generated. So select this file, HUI, right click, and then okay, here I am saying selected your project, deploy EGL project. Now if you can see, it's generating all of the code from your HUI project. It's taking all Dojo libraries, rich libraries, and visual definitions and other definitions. That is copying in the new project that we set here. If you can see how many files are generated here, just see the structure. These are all new files generated here. If you can see, there are so many that Dojo unnecessary files generated. I mean, the widgets that we are not using, but they are still generated. So definitely in your final or deployment, you have to only make sure that your corresponding widgets are generated. Anyway, this is done. Now, one way is to just select your project, this one that contains your generated code, right click, and then simple export WAR file. and then you deploy your WAR file as a normal WAR file that you deploy on your application servers. I hope you would be familiar with WAR files or ER files in Java terminology. So what we can do, one way is this one, or other way you can directly run this one onto the local WAS just to see how it's running. Run on server, this localhost server, finish. Here it's running in the browser, click. Okay. Now here it's showing few errors. What would be the function? This one, and maybe again there'll be issue. There'll be sometimes it's a single-threaded database, so maybe we have already made a connection, so it's creating a second connection with the Derby, so it's not currently supporting the second connection. So if you are using, for example, any other database like MySQL, Oracle, or DB2, then definitely they are multi-threaded connections supported. So this would be the case. That's why it's not calling this one, and in the background it's like hitting the service, and when service is going on the server, then at that place is failing. So I think you can do the same thing. What you will do, you will stop the server, restart the environment, and then only make connection from this project, and it should work fine. In the same way as we already have seen. Previously we had a similar issue. It was not working. We stopped the server, we started environment, and then we only ran this project, and it worked fine. So I have this is the end of our all training classes, and we learned about how to create and consume web services, and how to make database calls, and how to write SQL queries, and how to optimize them, and then we learned how to deploy an application. If you have any question, please go ahead before I stop. We leave for the day, and as this is our last day, I hope you enjoyed and you learned EGL, maybe not at expert level, but at the beginner level, and you can easily proceed with EGL, and there are a lot of stuff present on the EGL forum where you can easily get good support in terms of tutorial, in terms of help on the EGL forum, and in terms of simple applications that are present there. And all this material has been downloaded from the IBM forum site, and there are some other labs there and some other topics there. For example, you want to interact with file systems, you want to interact with your messaging systems like MQ systems, or you want to call your TICs or RBD programs, then there is a separate labs and course available on the EGL forum from where you can easily download the tutorial in simple code, and you can proceed ahead. any question regarding any topic that we learned during these classes, please go ahead. Okay, no question. Okay, thank you very much for your time being with us throughout all 3 days. It was good to see you and good to learn this tool, and we enjoyed, and I hope you learned good things. Hope to see you next time. Okay, if you have any question, you can even send me via email. I will try my best to always help you on learning the EGL. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Take care. Bye bye.